Hi, welcome to Liberty Park Music. I'm Michelle Huang, your piano instructor. In our last lesson, we had learned some basic music fundamentals, such as being able to name the white keys on the piano, the 4 basic note values, and the 4 most commonly seen dynamic markings in music scores. In our lesson today, we'll learn more music fundamentals, such as half steps and whole steps, accidentals, the grand staff, time signatures, intervals, and octaves. We will also learn how to read notes on the grand staff, and you will have a chance to play more pieces with these new musical concepts and terms. First, let's talk about half steps and whole steps. A half step is the distance from any key to the very next key above or below it. This very next key can be a black or white key. In other words, there is no key in between. A whole step is 2 half steps combined, which means skipping one key, which can be black or white, in between. By addressing half steps and whole steps, we can now relate white to black keys. However, we still need to find ways to name these black keys. This is where accidentals come in. Accidentals are musical notations that alter the pitches up a half step, down a half step, or return to the original pitches. As you can see here, there are 3 types of musical notations that can be referred to as accidentals. They are sharps, flats, and naturals. A sharp before a note means to play a half step up or to the right, not skipping any keys. So a C sharp would be the black key to the right of C. Notice that C sharp sounds just a little bit higher than C. A flat before a note means to play a half step down or to the left, also not skipping any keys. So a D flat would be the black key to the left of D. By now, you probably have noticed that C sharp and D flat are the same key, but they're named differently. These are called inharmonic notes. They have the same pitch, but they play different roles in harmony and chord progressions, which we'll talk about in a few lessons. Now also notice that there are 2 places on the keyboard where 2 white keys are placed back to back with no black key in the middle. These can be sharp or flat notes. These 2 places are E and F and B and C. E can also be named F flat. F can be named E sharp. B can be named C flat. C can be named B sharp. The last accidental notation is the natural. A natural sign cancels a sharp or flat. So if a note is marked C sharp and the next C has a natural sign on it, it returns to regular C with no accidentals. Now we can name all the white keys and the black keys on the piano. Let's see if we can transfer what is on the keyboard to staff paper or musical scores. Music is written on a staff of 5 lines and 4 spaces. Some notes are written on lines and some are written in spaces. Oftentimes in music, you will see 2 staffs, treble and bass staffs. Treble staff is marked by a treble clef sign, and bass staff is marked by bass clef sign. The treble clef curls around the G line, which is the G above middle C. Interestingly enough, the sign came from the letter G, so it is sometimes also referred to as the G clef. The bass clef sign begins at the F line below middle C, so it is also called the F clef. As you probably already guessed, the sign came from the letter F. The bass staff and treble staff are then joined together by a bracket to make a grand staff. A ledger line is used between the 2 staffs for middle C. Ledger lines can also be used above or below the grand staff to extend its range. The notes with arrows are good landmarks for reference points. Know how to locate these notes quickly on the keyboard, and you will be able to read the notes close to them more quickly. Another way to read notes quickly is by steps or skips. Notice that from middle C to D, it's a line to a space note, and it's a step up. From D to E, it's a space to line note, which is also a step up. A common mistake is to overlook the spaces and jump straight to the next line note. For example, one might misread E as D because the little space in between middle C and E might be neglected since there's not a line there acting as a reference point. In this case, from middle C to E, it's a line note to another line note, so it's a skip. Same thing with D and F. From D to F, it's a space to a space note. It's a skip. To recap what we just talked about, line to the very next space or space to the very next line note, it's a step. Line to the very next line or space to the very next space, it's a skip. We just learned how to read notes on the grand staff. Let's play a short piece and see if we can combine everything we have learned so far. Take a look at this excerpt. Notice the clef sign. You will be using your right hand to play this passage, which is in the treble clef. Take a look at 2 numbers stacked on top of each other before the first note. This is something we have not seen before. This is time signature. The top 4 means there are 4 beats to each measure. The bottom 4 means a quarter note gets 1 beat. You will see many different variations of this in the next few lessons. Most of it will involve changing the top number, but not the bottom number. As you can see in the diagram here, a 3/4 means 3 beats to each measure. 2/4 means 2 beats to each measure. Or common time, which is essentially 4/4, but written differently to indicate difference in pulse. Now let's return to the excerpt. Refer back to your grand staff and locate your first note. Remember, the top numbers are for fingerings and the bottom numbers are for counting. Once you have found the correct finger to place on the correct note, in this case, the first note is G above middle C, played by your right hand number 1. Now take a look at the first two notes. Ask yourself the questions. If it is a step or skip, and is it going up or down from the first to the second note? In this case, G, which is your first note, and a line note, goes up to the next space note, which makes the next note A. A, which is a space note, then goes up to the next line note, which is a B. Use this method for the rest of the passage as you play. Give yourself vocal cues to get from one note to the next. I will demonstrate how to do that here. G. Up step A. Up step B. Down step A. Up step B. Up step C. Up step D. Down step C. Down step B. Down step A. Repeat. Down step G. Play through this excerpt one more time, this time without any vocal cues, but still mentally think about your steps and skips and your ups and downs. Now let's play this excerpt one last time. This time we're going to add in counting and dynamics. Play and count out loud as you go through this excerpt. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. As we saw in the treble staff excerpt, reading notes by distance and direction is important. The distances between any two pitches are measured in intervals, called seconds, thirds, fourths, fifths, so on and so forth. The distance from any white key to the next white key up or down is called a second. As you can see in this example here, from C to D is a second. Skipping a key from C to E is a third. Skipping 2 keys is a fourth. Skipping 3 keys is a fifth. Any two notes placed separately are called melodic intervals. Any of these two notes can also be played together, called harmonic intervals. intervals on your own and listen to the sound of each interval. Go ahead and try the left hand as well, and try both melodic and harmonic intervals. An octave is the distance from one key on the keyboard to the next key with the same letter name. For example, C to C, D to D, E to E, and so on and so forth. You can play these octaves with fingers 1 and 5. Typically, you will see octaves written in the music scores as ABA, placed either above or below the staff. If it's written above the staff, it indicates that the notes will be played 1 octave higher. As you can see in the diagram here, an ABA sign above the middle C passage shows that you will actually start with the next C above middle C. So the notes actually played are these. If it's written below the staff, then the notes will be played 1 octave lower. So in this example, the middle C descending passage will be played 1 octave lower. In this lesson, we have learned more music fundamentals, such as the half steps and whole steps, accidentals, the grand staff, time signatures, intervals, and octaves. We also learned how to read notes on the grand staff by directions and distances in between the notes. In our next lesson, we will talk about tempo marks, which is how fast or slow you can play a piece. Articulations, which are the different ways you can play notes. And rest, which are musical silences. Just like dynamics, these musical markings can make music more exciting and full of characters. See you in your next lesson.